It is quite
Very nicely done.
Sorry.
What were you going to say?
nothing.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Selling Frankston. Guys, federal budget has dropped and changed property investing forever. What were they thinking, Dad? They've just
Forever could be a bit of an asterisk next to that. Can I?
What do you mean?
Well,
This is the first change since 1999. This is the biggest change for investing in
Tax
the property
reforms,
market and tax reform. So,
but if there is a change of government from a federal standpoint, and we've seen it across the ditch, New Zealand, 2021, Jacinta Ardern implemented the same sort of strategy in 2021. 2 years later, abolished. Now we've seen this.
correct. So it could definitely change it forever. It could either one of two ways. It's going to do
Well,
something.
look, if it's going to be
maybe
here
not
long
forever. You're right.
yeah, forever's a strong word there.
I'm trying to punch some sales into this title. You know what I mean? We've got to be.
No, but look, what the impact or the effects, definitely, we're seeing it firsthand, no doubt.
What do you?
Why don't you read out for the viewers? So, for those who don't know, who haven't been, we're going to, today's episode is going to be based around the changes that have government changes that are going to affect people here in Frankston.
Let's go
from
through
a
that.
selling and buying perspective.
Yep. So in Frankston, currently, let's just give some insider information. There's 34% of homes in Frankston that are investor held. So the remaining 66
That's about right. Yep.
is owner occupied. In Frankston South,
So 1 in 3 homes are rented out.
yes, that's a good way to put it. And in terms of Frankston South, 18% are investor held homes.
Yeah.
So as Dad would say, just under 1 in 5.
Just under 1 in 5.
So out of those areas, you've got to look. Coringal, Seaford, Langwarrin are they're the predominant.
Yep,
would you
Maryland's estate. You got some in Lakewood. Yep.
Yeah, they're the
Parts of
predominant.
Frankston. Yep. Central CBD. Yep.
Yeah. Now, it was a really interesting when Jim Chalmers came out and said that house prices since 1999 have gone up 400%. That is double the amount of the average income. So it just shows that property prices, regardless of what's happening in the world, a GFC, all this sort of stuff,
Yep.
they just punch up. I feel like you got a smirk on your face for some reason there. Why?
No,
You were going to say something. All right, but let's go through what actually
go
has
through, I think, and then we'll
changed.
unpack it.
Yeah, so we had 2 reforms, both kick in 1st of July 2027. They were announced at 7:30 p.m. on the 12th of May. Change 1, negative gearing on established residential property is ending. So from July 1, 2027, negative gearing for established residential property is being abolished. Investors will no longer be able to offset rental losses against salary or other personal income. Losses can only be offset against residential rental income or future capital gains from rental properties. New builds remain exempt. So that's showing that they want developers to be developing and they want investors to be changing towards new builds.
That's a topic we'll talk about and get back to because I think it's important for the viewers.
Yep. So you can still negatively gear a newly constructed dwelling. Build to rent, widely held trusts, super funds, and government housing programs are still also exempt. Change number 2, the 50% CGT capital gains tax discount is being replaced. The 50% discount that's been in place since 1999 is being scrapped from the 1st of July 2027. It'll be replaced by 2 things. The cost-based indexation, you adjust your purchase price for inflation, plus a 30% minimum tax rate on the gain. This is very entertaining, isn't it? I reckon you might just have a yawn. This applies to individuals, trusts, and partnerships. Super funds are not affected. They keep their concession. Pensioners and income support recipients are exempt from the 30% minimum. For new builds, investors can choose either the old 50% discount or the new indexation method. What do you reckon this means in plain English for the property market in Frankston? What's your
My general take?
just on that initial part? Because I haven't gone through the grandfathering rules.
It's definitely going after the middle class.
Yeah.
That's my take. I think, mums and dads, investors out there, people that are, really taking it, the property ownership. They've bought a property. They're sort of in their mid 40s or even late 30s, early 40s. Got a second house, negatively gearing it. They've taken the punt, hoping for that appreciation, and they always knew capital gains were going to be there. But now with these measures that are going to come into play, you're going to see a mass exodus of mums and dads investors.
Well, their whole take was that they were trying to get 75,000 new buyers into the market that are going to live in homes, right, in established areas.
Yeah.
What's the, realistically, what's the incentive? Like, prices are going to, I would argue, rental prices will go up.
Absolutely. I'm seeing now, and it was a pretty good understanding. Well, it was just some of the government officials that get on the TV shows like Sunrise and whatnot. It was interesting. I think it was Natalie Barr from Sunrise was chairing the I forget the lady's name. She's 2IC at Albo.
That's
anyway,
helpful.
It's not helpful. But anyway, she was sitting there. Oh, look, it's going to be okay. And there was message after message after message that landlords, as a result of what's going on, is bumping their rent up by $100. So we did see this happen years ago, where when they introduced negative gearing and they cut it out, investors just go, well, okay, we'll just slug it onto the tenants, which inevitably you're trying to help people get into the market by buying or renting a place. They save enough money then to go and buy. These renters now won't be able to save a cent.
No.
Cost of living is going through the roof. Have you ever costed? I mean, these people are delusional.
Well, I just don't understand. They came at it and said the intergenerational thing and helping your next bet.
Yeah, that was the buzzword. You know what intergenerational means? We're broke and we're going to come after the middle class. Fuck yes. That's how it is. I'm sorry to say it. It's terrible. That sounds bad, but I'm just disappointed because you see so many people that have been toiling so hard for so many years. And, mate, we've got people that have got properties that tenants aren't paying their money. Where's the government there? Where's the help?
Yeah.
While they're having to pay, the banks back and
tax on tax.
Tax on tax and tax on tax. I mean, even think about this. You're exempt on new builds. New building costs have gone through the roof. Do you know how many builders are going bust at the moment?
There's land lots selling in Sky that are like 400 square meters for 600,000. That's without the build. That's not even with the build.
Without
on top.
a build.
That's so you're telling me by the time you finish, you're going to be over $1 million just on that, if not more. And you're not getting that back.
You're going to tip in more than, let's be honest, it used to be like you could get a house for 10,000 to 12,000 a square. Now minimum it's probably 25,000 per square.
Yeah.
So minimum, and then there's all these new rules and regulations. I think that these people are the government are making these decisions. I have no idea. They're not in the real world. Like, I'll be honest. There's it's the lots, like subdivision lots are going to, while the dust settles, people are going to probably target those sort of properties. And I would strongly recommend dualplex sites or dual lock sites. They're the ones you want to go after. Absolutely.
Go for the land in the councils that
keep
have
the
already
land. The council, they're going to be administering.
Well, just on that, let's actually. I want to just before we go through the grandfathering.
Yep.
I actually do want to talk to the Frankston Major Activity Centre plan for 2030.
Yeah.
There are still a lot of land lots, still a lot of sites that have shifting zoning and overlays.
Yep.
So if you are looking and you're going, okay, where should I buy that next investment? Where should I be able to offset and capitalize and also see a good amount of interest on a property? You're probably going to be better off buying into an established area, developing, a couple of lots and then selling, and you'll sell.
I think land banking at the moment, some of the investors are going to be doing that. I think we're seeing some people now that we're dealing with some people, giving them the right advice prior to tax season. They're weighing up whether to sell their property because the building costs have come back and they're shifting at all times. This petrol crisis that we've had seems to have gone away. But then again, everything's gone up. So freight, everything just keeps moving at a rate of knots. So if you lock in oil contract now, the end price of when you actually start digging the soil up and getting all the plans and it could go up an additional 10, 20, 30%. So the resales, and this is where
that's
it's
why
very, very hard as agents because we're sitting there going, well, look, your resale for a unit is X. How much is, to now get the plans and go through, you can't just, the old days where you could just say, yeah, we've got a development site, we're going to sell it back and then do the plans after. You have to get everything done now beforehand. So that,
well, you got to think, take it from, if you're selling, say you own a block, it's over 1,000 square meters, you could put 3 or 4 on it, right?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, toying with the idea, what do I need to do? Get it all as close, paint the picture for the potential buyer, because the buyer nowadays has to factor in, they just know, everyone as a general consensus knows that the build costs have gone through the roof.
Yep.
And they'll use that every day of the week. They'll plug it into their feasibility. They'll go, okay, does this work for me? And then they've got to factor in a shifting market. You got to factor in all these cash rate increases, a budget and an election, a state election coming up at the end of this year. What do I need to do? Paint the picture, get your plans and permits, go through that process, get some, preliminary drawings so that you've actually got some concept plans so that you can go, hey, with confidence, this is probably what it's going to be. This is what the land value should be. Yeah. And hey, does this person need a profit? 100%. No one's going to make a loss. There's no benefit of doing something like that. So,
but I'll give an example, Josh, of the situation down here, for example. Sold a place to a gentleman. He bought it at auction, 950 square metre site. So it's a 3-unit site comfortably. Now it's a bit of a fall at the rear of the block, so it's a bit of an undulating. So the footings and so forth, you have to be a little bit smarter. He paid at auction probably $530. It was probably worth $450. He paid $530 plus stamps. Rounded off, say $575. He's been renting it out. The value now is probably probably last year was probably 1.1 to 1.2. It's probably now come back more 10.50 to 1.1. Right. Now he's asked me. He said, "Juan, well, look, I noticed you sold that property. The one in Catherine Parade. You got a great result, $1,051,000. I'm tipping all units are $1 million. I'm like negative. Like that build there. That was a Bayside builder building him for himself, but he'd bought the land 25 years ago for $200,000. So he said, so how do I get? He goes, look, I've had some builders come back and quote, and for the whole site, it's going to be close to $2 million. I said, okay.
Are you going to say that back?
I said, well, look, $2 million, is that includes landscape? No. So it's just the pure build. So you think about this, right? He's paid $500 and so near, I think plus his stamps, $575. It owes him, he's got a mortgage of say $300. So it is $250. We could sell it tomorrow for $1.1. Right? So he's got a profit of around $800,000. The build is going to cost him $2 million. $2 million.
Yeah, so what's the benefit?
And he's like, so what are the resales? If I get $1 million, will I get $1 million per property? I said, well, you probably won't. Unless you put, this floor plan was 4-bed, 3-bath. What are you planning? Oh, no, we're going to go 3 and a study and 2 4x2x2. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. 4x2x2.
Just building one house.
Yeah, and he said, I just said to him, I said, look, I don't want to sort of mislead you and tell you a figure that you're going to get. Because the last thing you want to do is go commit all the rest of it. So we've got a lot of people right now in that same boat. They're sitting there going, now there are options. You could potentially do a JV with a builder.
Yeah.
Where, you might be able to leverage him and whatnot. But the problem that we have at the moment.
Just for anyone who doesn't know, joint venture is JV. And what you can do is structure it so that you partner with a builder. You put up the land as your guarantee and they put up, depends on how you work that agreement, but where there's will there's a way and the costs get cut and you both absorb the risk one way or another.
It's not a risk all on the owner, but the problem that we have at the minute is like the resales, like years ago, I could sit there with a client and say, look, X, like you're going to be making a heap of profit. The problem that we have at the moment with a lot of developers, they're not seeing those fruits. And I'm seeing people move out of Victoria
Yeah, because
or
like
Metro Melbourne, because they're looking, going, well, we can potentially buy somewhere else, and we can actually do a development site in South Australia. The costs aren't, for some reason, the costs aren't huge. New South Wales, regional, etc. So there's this happening right now. So for our market right now,
do you reckon you've just identified something really, really good there? There's actually not a lot of money in the game when it comes to that development.
Correct.
Do you think, and this is kind of what I foresee it going down, we haven't even gone through the grandfathering and all that sort of stuff, but do you reckon that people will start spending more money on their PPR? Like you'll see, tradies, builders, like actually buying, the worst properties in the best streets and then flipping them
absolutely.
like this
And Josh, this is what I've been seeing. And look, this area in particular where I've sort of made my mark in Frankston South. Frankston South was always the poor cousin of Mount Eliza, and Frankston South's really gone up and up and up and up. A lot of us agents have been doing some really wonderful things. We've been bringing videos to content way before, like we would do things that people in Brighton were doing. We brought it down onto the picture.
I did a video the other day and I touched the kitchen bench.
You did, and
I put my hand on the kitchen bench.
What
were you going to say? What were you going to say?
No, I wasn't going to say it, but you looked a bit suspect. But anyway, what I was going to say, getting back to...
you were pretty influential around the marketing and you did all your videos back in 2008.
But even the styling, we started to bring the style. And where I got the inspiration from, the inspo came from shows like The Block, house renovations. So you'd see people like, I remember Jamie Drury did this amazing backyard blitz, and we could see that, and we were talking to people, oh, look, if you do this, you spend $1,000 here, you're going to get $5,000 back. So what you touched on, Josh, is absolutely on point. We're going to see more and more people with their PPR invest into their PPR because it is tax-free.
Yeah.
And then look at expanding or,
well, the objective of today is, hey, there's been a budget, there's been a release. That's fantastic. It is shifting the way that people will invest. This is not financial advice.
Correct.
But what we would be, and what we're seeing a lot of, people are chatting with accountants, financial advisors, restructuring and trying to figure out what their game plan over the next few years
what their game plan is going to be. And the other thing is where the tax benefits are going to be. Now, just so you know, we are the most highest taxed place in all of Australia. And in actual fact, we are leading the world with tax.
Great.
That's not great.
But not Dan Andrews, bloody.
Mate, don't I'll start twitching. When I hear all those guys, I think, at the end of the day, the principal residence where people, and I've seen people do this. I've had so many clients over the years. They were hard workers, and then they realised, look, we had to pay capital gains. Yeah, that's okay. But what they did was they would buy land lots, and at the time you'd go, geez, that to buy a block in there for 160 grand, it's a lot of money. And then back then they would build for 120,000 and then sell it for 500. Now that's crazy to think. That's what like now.
Well, that was back 1999 sort of stuff.
No, early 2000s. But what I'm saying is,
you made my point even better.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is more and more people now are selling their principal residence. And yes, there's stamp duty. Yes, there's agents' costs. But some people are actually profiting, close to 150,000 between two. So that's like 75,000 net.
But you're going to do the stamps anyway, regardless.
They're going to do the stamps. You're going to do the stamps. So we're seeing a bit more of that. So we're going to start to see more people go, you know what, let's invest in a pool. Let's invest in getting a lovely, entertaining area where we can, highlight and facilitate the outdoor entertaining area. You know what I mean? So
one thing I want to touch on, and because this is what's going to happen, you're doing new builds. Normally you target new builds for first home buyers, right? Would you agree with that? A lot of the time. That's going to be pretty much, you don't pay stamps up to, it's a sliding scale from 600 to 750.
Yep.
You can't pick up a brand new build in Frankston under that 750.
No, you can't.
So you're not targeting, they're going to pay full stamps regardless. Yes, they get their concession, but and they have the no income cap up to 950. So there's still going to be interest, but still to find a first home buyer who's going to be willing to want to get something like that.
Well, the hardest thing that we're seeing at the moment, like
They
You know,
need to
Josh,
shift that. I actually think
I
they need
I
to
think
shift
they-
that up
they need to
because
sh-
there's
they-
the costs
they're
go
going to
up.
have to.
Yeah,
the
in
problem,
the metro area.
But it's interesting because the government's saying, oh, you know, we're trying to make it, affordable. Well, in line with the banks, what they're doing is interest rates are going up. It's gone up 3 times. So it came down to 2 or 3 times last year. It's gone up 3 times now. Analysts are predicting that there's more rate rises to come. Now, that's all good and well, but talk to a borrower. Now, we're encountering this. So we're talking to first-time buyers or even people that are looking to borrow. And like I spoke to a guy the other day, like we took him, that was a unit that I had that we sold off market. Now, I said to him, hey, I know you got a budget up to 700. He goes, sorry, Juan, since the current rate rises, I've had to get my pre-approval redone. So they've got to get it every 3 months. People don't take this into consideration. What he was guaranteed at the start of the year was 700. Now, because the projected trajectory of where the interest rates are going, mate, 650. Come back 50 grand.
Look,
Because he's on his own.
The banks factor in 3% either side anyway. So they're going to look and go, okay, you're at
his borrowing power has come back, his serviceability. So this is where we're seeing more people partner up. Like I'm talking to some families saying, hey, your daughter needs to buy a house, your son needs to buy a house. Why don't they partner up? Between the two of them, they'll have more borrowing power. There's ways to get around it and do things and get into the market versus, because now renting a property right now, it is hard. There's going to be less, like we're seeing more properties coming to market, and every property, you know this, Josh, how many properties did we sell last year that were rentals that then became owner occupied?
We had a lot. We only sold close to 20% of rentals, but predominantly went back to an owner occupier, which is,
I reckon
I
we
would
had
say
8, I think it was close to 10 properties that we were close to thereabouts. 8 to 10 properties that we sold that were investments. I would say 80% went to homeowners. So what I'm saying is, there's a shortage,
just hear me out. That's if you look at Frankston or Frankston South, that's just the area-driven market. Like there is more great stores. I mean, you go in the other week. I went to Grilled. I bounced from Grilled. I then went to the Sporting Globe, and then I went to the Hop Shop, and then I went to Loner. Like that's a vibe. Wow, it was a good time.
Good time.
Didn't tell you because you would have been like, what? Anyway, it was those sort of things. It's a real vibe in Frankston. So you see that there's a lot of people buying because of the area, and people do want to rent in areas that rent vesting is no longer. Like no one's going to really do that unless you've been grandfathered. Let me jump into section number 3. So this is where investors do need to pay close attention. If you owned or were under contract on an investment property before 7:30 p.m. 12th of May 2026, you're grandfathered. So that means negative gearing continues under current rules until you sell. Your CGT treatment is split gains accrued before 1st of July 2027, use the old 50% discount, gains after the use of the new indexation plus 30% minimum. You'll need a valuation then this is an interesting one. You will need a valuation at 1st of July 2027 to split the gain or use ATO's apportionment method. Now that we did see a lot of that, I saw a realestate.com.au article saying that you will need to get all your valuations. It'll be interesting to see how they go off that, because if the ATO and then an agent, what are they going to really, who's true? Because we talk about this all the time. You've got your real estimates, you got your domain.
It's a crock of shit, to be honest.
Probably not. I don't like the word a crock of shit. It's probably more, I don't mean to debate you on it. It's just an unfair guide. I think that if you're going to have...
It's a guide, yes.
If you're going to have... it's such a fixed figure. Yes, they have a low, high, and then pretty much smack bang big number there. I think you got to look at it and go, take it for what it is. It's a guide. It's probably factoring in comparable sales. Is it factoring in the 3 cash rate rises from those comparable sales that have just occurred? A federal budget, which has just shifted a lot of investor buyer sentiment? No. So you got to look and go, what is the whole point of when you sell is the process to make sure that you have enough intelligence to know where the buyers are. And at the end of the day, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay.
Yep.
But the more people you have wanting to pay money for your home, the better the price ends up becoming.
We're seeing that at the moment. So there was 2 results with 2 different, actually there'll be 3 results shortly in Frankston South. And one of them was wanting between 1 to 1.1. It was a 4-bedroom home, 2 bath, 2-car garage, 647 square metre block, sold at auction, 912,500. Now, for a 4-bedder, Frankston South, median price for a Frankston South property is just under the 1.3.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying is that's one result, and the agent chose not to disclose it for fairly good reasons. Why? Because if it had been published at that, people would have gone, why was that? There was another result that just sold. They were advertising 135 to 145. And the property was always probably worth around the 1.2 to 125. 120 days on the market, sold for 116.
Good profit there.
Good profit to the buyer. And this is the thing, like, but unfortunately, Josh, this is what's going to happen. Like, there's going to be another one that's, they were wanting 1.75 to 1.9 or 1.89. They're going to sell it for 1.5. Yeah, what I'm seeing is right now in the marketplace.
But just on that one though, but people they get the same on the other side. Do they
Absolutely.
not? Like if they're buying and selling and trading in the same market, just caveat that.
You've got to caveat that. But my point that I'm trying to make to the viewers out there, what people don't realise is we're in the trenches right now, and we can feel what the market's doing by the numbers of buyers coming through your opens. If you're looking at selling your property right now, do yourself a favour, go through the home opens. If you've done it 6 months ago and you've thought, we know what we're doing. No, come back now, because the property market's quite a volatile market. They say it's, shares is quite volatile. We can see shifts very quickly and the feel and the vibe from the consumers.
Would you say that it's volatile in the sense of the buy and foot traffic numbers? I wouldn't say it's so volatile from a pricing standpoint.
No, I don't think it is. But I think
But does that come back to having good agents and we have good tools that can be used?
And this is where I would say, look, I watch it a lot, and we're still going out to properties, and I'll say to a client, look, I don't want the business. And they'll go, but hang on, we want you to sell it. And I'm like, I don't want it. I know it sounds ruthless, but
what do you mean when you say you don't want it? Why wouldn't you want the business?
Because one, the price that we're not custodians of price, right? So we don't actually hold that price. We're there to, maximize the client's price by marketing it to the best of our ability and being able to bring the buyers in and then negotiate.
Yeah, we're the governors of the process. We're
the governors of the process. We're not custodians of the price. We don't hold the price. Sellers need to understand that they're holding that, but they also can withhold a sale. So they're actually in position.
But that's a given. They're in control at the end of the day.
What I would say right now is there's such a disconnect from sellers to buyers. And the buyer, and look, what I would say is some properties are priced beautifully, and you'll know very quickly. Yep, we're cooking with gas. But if you're not, if that advertised price right now, it is the most critical part to sell, and it always has been. Whether it's a good market or a bad market, that is number one. But what is happening now? We've still got people going, well, I need to get $1 million. Because I know it's worth that. I'm like, well, it could be worth $975.
I really don't like the old adage, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay. But your whole objective with a process is to flush out multiple people to pay. And it's a question that...
So question to you, Josh, based on the numbers that are coming through at the moment with some listings that you would think absolutely... 6 months ago, same price?
Would have sold.
Would have sold. Okay, so my question to you is, how does a seller sell in a market like this?
Well, look at your competition. So look at what's currently listed on the market.
Yep. What if there's no properties that are similar to this property?
Well, then you're just going to go off a land per square metre rate and then a replacement value. You kind of can name a price that you come to the conclusion you go off, okay, well, the land lots are still selling for this. Build costs are probably going to be this. What have you put into it since you've been here?
Yep.
How can we, then we can justify it to the marketplace.
But Josh, can I ask, I'll play devil's advocate, but Josh, my broker, he's saying that there's a couple more interest rates to rise and they're saying to me, just hold off, don't buy now.
That's fine. Then why am I here? Like at the end of the day, if your broker's, if you have no motivation to make a move, then don't. Like you've got to be, I think this is where the smart ones are doing stuff because you're buying, yes, you might be not transacting. It's funny. Everyone thinks that the market's just absolutely fallen off a cliff. There are still fantastic prices.
Absolutely.
Frankston and Frankston South, I want to make a very good point. I'm going to look dead in the camera. They have come up so significantly compared to Greater Melbourne. We have come up, Frankston South, just over 12% in the last year. Frankston went up. There was reports that I had it at 16.3%, but people say close to 20. Frankston North was the highest growing. I said this last week.
We've been in the top 5 growth in all of Australia.
Finish my point.
Sorry.
If you are looking at selling, yes, Mark, what goes up must come down. And it will. It always, you've seen this, up, down, flat line. It's Jim Chalmers. And I'm going to repeat this. House prices have come up 400% since 1999. I don't really know what more we need to talk about, guys. Markets go up and down. They fluctuate. If you're selling...
continue. I firmly believe they're always going to continue to go up. It's what you're planning to do with your money now.
That's all that matters. If your plan... If your broker's sitting there going, don't do this, don't do that. Well, I can tell you one thing. When there's that little bit of uncertainty, and there is a fair bit, that's why the market does slow down. When there's a lot of uncertainty, we see that. Foot traffic dies off. Investors are figuring out what's going on. The dust needs to settle so they feel confident. Everyone wants to know that what they're doing, it's a bit of a sheep mentality. Yep. They need to feel like everyone else is doing that same thing. So we need to keep up with the Joneses. So guys, if you're going to go and buy in at that time, you're going to buy with all this competition, you end up going to spend another 5-10% that you didn't really want to. These are where the savvy people are selling, buying.
The snakes and
they're
ladders.
Not stopping.
This is the time most people will go and buy property because, and I remember, like, I know one of the biggest investors in Frankston, and he said, "One, as soon as the newspapers start talking, property down and all the rest of it, he goes, that's when I start looking to buy. I don't buy in a hot market."
That was actually going to be a question. Where in a time that does feel, we were on the brink of a war, or we were the Iran and everything that happened, that's slowly settling, the cost of living crisis, fuel crisis. We had all these cash rates coming up 3%. There was a lot of economic factors and a lot of media and a lot of, look, if you had to talk to
it's funny. We had our biggest month ever in all of that. So there was people that had to buy and sell.
Correct.
But so it comes back to the stock you've got.
Where should we be getting? No, but if doesn't matter about as an agent, no one cares about what sort of stock we have unless they're looking at it and they're interested in it. But if they're sitting there going, okay, I have no idea, what I should be doing. I'm hearing on the media that it's pretty negative. The market's pretty crap. This, that, and the other. Hey, who are you getting your information from?
Okay, so this is what I would suggest, Josh, and it's a very valid point. My suggestion: turn the TV off because most people will get their information and their prognosis from there. The other thing is they'll go to ChatGPT and they'll plug it in and say, what should I do? I mean, that's quite risky because whatever is already out there in the real world.
No, and ChatGPT is actually geared to agree with you. I don't know anyone so I really loved it. Ryan Serhan did a video and he had a $50 million
Who's
deal.
Ryan Serhan?
He's a real estate agent over in the US. He has one of the biggest brands over there.
$1 million listing.
$1 million listings, owning Manhattan.
Hey, Ryan, how are you, mate?
Does a lot of good business. Anyway, he was saying that the purchaser went on and said, hey, I'm about to spend $50 million. I just want to make sure, is this the right thing? Like, I'm just a bit tentative. And came back and said, no. Then while also in the same process, the next day the seller did the same thing and said, should I accept it? And they said, no, you're probably selling too cheap. Now, let's put this in perspective. What you feed the AI is geared to agree with you. If every time you talked to an AI bot and it just disagreed with you and just cracked the shits at you and told you all the negatives, I asked you this, would you use it again?
Correct.
You wouldn't. There's no benefit. So
it's like having a dad telling you, no, son, you're not doing that. When you know you put, but Dad, should I go to that party? Oh, son, I don't know. But you put in a check to be, yeah, go, mate. Go. Like, this is the thing where you're getting your information. So if I'm looking at selling,
What about Rob down at the pub that tells me that I'm selling
good
for
old
two?
Robbo.
I've gone there. I've got an agent. He's telling me the buyer feedback and the buyer intelligence coming in at this sort of level. Six call it 700, but I want Robbo's telling me I should be selling a minimum 800 because he lives in the same street and I've just bumped into him. Should I listen to that?
Definitely not. I say to a lot of clients, it's like when you go to market, in particular, you got to understand that also we have in the reserve and this is something that we'll consider moving forward, because I think when you have a reserve and it's got to be advised, we will say we're signing off private sale, say 650 to 700. Now, in that process, the client can go, yep, we're selling, in that range. But then they do talk to their friends. They might get a place painted and styled and it looks a little bit fresher and it looks good. And people go after a few beers, oh, mate, this is worth 8 every day or 900, right?
How many people do it? They do the updates and then they go, and then I want to stay or I should have, I've added a bit of value here.
Yeah, I've added, I'm like, hang on, you're actually going to make it really good for the sale to get what you want, but you could get more, but you put a higher price on it, different range. We're not. What I'm sort of off the belief is, look, with July 1 approaching pretty quick with auctions, we have to declare soon, one week out from the auction.
That's a lot.
But what I'm saying is, no. But I think it's really important for consumers.
I reckon let them contact us for that. If someone does want to know what that is going to do and the sort of strategy, I would be.
We'll talk about that.
I just don't want to, because
that's
we could have.
But Josh, I will say this: how often right now we've got to be advised, the owners are like in that range, and they're like, oh no, we now want more.
I think you should always give that opportunity to it. No, but I always think, okay, I put in perspective. They've got a product, they've worked their ass off. They should have every right to not be locked in on a price up until they need to give certainty to a buyer. I actually do believe that. It's no different to a business owner providing a product and then going, I actually don't want to sell. I'm going to up that price. I'm going to do it to this. Hey, if they want to do that, that's actually should be their decision. They should be allowed to. I guess, like we've seen time and time again, the people who are very transparent, very certain with their move, understand their motivation and also know what the market's doing. And that's what we always do. We get an indication for them. They're going to know where the market's coming in. Whether or not they take it on board, that is their call.
I'll tell you right now, and looking straight down the camera, the reason why there's going to be a flood of property sitting on the market is a lot of owners have still got 20, 25 prices in their mind, and they're not moving with the market. So, and you know what? If the motivation's not there, it's just not there. You can't look, as agents. We can't do anything other than open the property up. I can tell you now, though.
I don't agree with that.
We can negotiate and we can get buyers.
We call through the database. We email the database. We SMS.
But what I'm saying is we can do everything. But I tell you now, and I've sold a few homes in my time, and we've maximised the results. But to clean a place, to have it looking shop ready for showtime, and if you haven't sold after 2 months and you're doing this week in, week out, and then the other thing you want to know, go down for a coffee, or when you go into the school pickup, or if you're down at the local football to watch your son play, and the guy comes up and goes, oh, hey, Juan, how you going? How's your house going? Have you sold it? Yeah, I can't believe it hasn't sold. What's wrong with it? These are the questions you're going to have answered. And you know what happens? Most people become recluses. They go, I don't want to talk about the property.
Yeah, but this is where it comes back to, you've got to have, I think in terms of mindset, everyone, that's organically going to happen.
Yeah.
First, we all know
it's
one thing.
It's happening a lot more now than we've ever seen and that is a telltale sign when days on market stretch out.
Yeah.
We're in a market that's changed. Even the clearance rates in Melbourne below 60%. So I'm just saying.
I think everyone knows that the market's shifting. I don't think you have to be. You could live under a rock to know that.
I disagree. I think there's a lot of people that are listening to different advice and whatnot.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is you just have to realign with, firstly, what is the reason why you're selling it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Your motivation
Go back
has to
to
be clear.
what you want, not what other people want. Go back to you. And
Well,
that's the important part.
You've got to believe it to then see it, right?
Yeah.
You can't.
And we've created fantastic results for our clients, created huge results.
Now, I want to just quickly, we didn't actually touch on grandfathering between the 12th of May and the 30th of June. So if you do buy between the 12th of May 2026 and the 30th of June 2027, negative gearing only you can negatively gear up until the 30th of June 2027, and then it will stop unless it's a new build. If you buy from the 1st of July 2027 onwards, an established property, no negative gearing against your salary, full stop.
Yeah.
New builds, yes, you can keep both negative gearing and the choice of your CGT method. In terms of, look, for Frankston and Frankston South, I do think there might be a couple of effects that may happen. Let's just brainstorm this.
Sure.
This is what I went through.
Yep.
One, you may have a potential rush of new invest activity before the 1st of July 2027. Anyone who wants the rules to lock in, they have pretty much 13 months. So there will be a lot of competition, which you've said that was your number one thing that you've seen that you reckon will happen. Do you want to talk a bit about why you reckon you're going to see investors do that and not hold their property, if that makes sense?
Yeah, look, when you're talking about investors, landlords currently that are on the market, they're thinking about going to market, there are some that have held their property for the last 10 to 20 years. I think there's going to be two tiers, a two-tier landlord. So you're going to have a lot of landlords that are going to say, you know what, we're not selling at all. If anything, we'll just bump up the rents.
Well, that's point two, the lock-in effect. It'll literally do a lock-in investor.
Yep.
And then you'll have what we'll call the other one.
Offload.
Capital growth investor who's made their money. They've got their coins.
They got their coin, and they're looking, going, you know what? We're 10 years off from retirement. Let's just grab our money, pay what we need to the tax office, dump it into principal residence, whether they've already paid it off, pay off their mortgage, or they will improve their property. And so they might have an older home and they go, you know what, we're going to have a full refurb. And we're seeing that. I'm going into people's homes and I'm like, you know what, if you've got an investment property and you want to offload that, well, that's fine. You got a beautiful home. You don't want to move. Kitchen's done in the 90s. We're now 2026. That's like 35 years ago. Why don't you put in a brand new kitchen, get a facelift, get all this done? I'm trying to make sure that we got trades up and about, because at the moment, talking to people that are in the trade,
let's not get
building surveyors, they're a little bit quiet at the moment.
I think it's across the board. Everyone I speak to, my mates, they're in the trade-owned businesses. Everyone is a lot quieter. It is that season as well. We're coming up to that doom and gloom. We've had a federal budget that's been a bit negative. Let's focus, like all we can try and do, on the positives. So, guys, that will happen. You will see a lot of investors that come on in Frankston, especially.
I think there's going to be good deals.
Just listen. Yep, I reckon there's going to be some fantastic deals. And the great thing about that is investors normally in that area have bought up, maximum up towards that $1 million mark. Normally speaking, an investor, I wouldn't
I disagree, because there's.
I don't know about you, but there's a lot of. I disagree with that.
There's a lot of investors that are bought 10, 15 years ago for like 200,000, 300,000, 400,000.
No, I'm saying, okay. So I said up to $1 million.
Oh, there's
I'm saying
worth.
Investors, yes, the worth will be up. So anything
are they buying?
Zero,
are you saying
$0?
Landlords? Or
These investors that will offload, normally speaking in the Frankston LGA, investors are spending up from $0 to around $1 million. They're not going north of $1 million. It's very rare.
Spot, yes,
I
get you.
That's what I was trying to say.
It sounded like, I know what you're saying. Investors have got current properties
between $0 to $1 million. I don't think they're owning homes that are going to be worth 1.5, unless they've been very savvy investors and bought land lots, which there's some people that have.
There are some.
That will, and anticipate it, there'll be a lot more stock under the mill that does come on, which will stimulate first home buyers. It will stimulate. There's a lot of, we talked about it, immigration. There's still a lot of people that want to get into this market. The lock-in effect, however, that's going to push rental prices up.
Absolutely.
That anyone that has bought over the last few years is just going to go,
So
retract.
from a numbers point of view,
That's bad for buyers though.
yeah, it's going
Because
to bump
it's going to put prices up because you don't have as much stock. So you will see over the next year, right? All these investors will go, oh crap, probably got to figure out my stuff over the next 13 months. Get all their properties on the market. You'll see a flood. So the prices will have to come down, supply and demand. And then after that, this lock-in effect will happen. And then what will happen after that? Organically.
I think organically in a couple of years we'll see it bounce back up. And this is where government powers and the governance in there. It's.
But this is where there's some cracking opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like this is absolute like cracking opportunities. Whether you're buying and selling, whatever it is, there's still fantastic opportunities because the market is pretty uncertain. When there's uncertainty out there, that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
A divergence between new builds and established homes. Expect developer activity to step up. I 100% agree. I mean, we're seeing that with apartments in Frankston. They're not stopping. And I think that's only going to continue to flow.
I think the great thing is that we need to be in line with some bigger developers coming down, but there's also land lots. So those big high rises, they've been earmarked. They're already on the. I think one of them starting to turn the soil over. They're probably 3 years away. I think they've sold 80%. That's in the harbour.
Pace.
Pace. Then you got another one there, Baylight. I think they're going to be. They're 4 years off. So Horizon at the moment is great, absolute buying. And that there in itself, the build, it's like going into, a 5-star resort.
I feel like you're in the, I know I refer to, like I said, the Sunshine Coast, but you really do have a nice vibe.
It's just amazing. The palm, everything
the
about
curves
it.
in the building, the brush brass fittings all throughout. It's a really solid building. If you've never been in there, you wouldn't understand it.
Until you actually go in there, like the foyer, that just everything they've done is just class. And look, the great thing is you've got those high rises. The more they pop up out of the ground, look, Frankston's becoming like a little like I would say we've been voted in Victoria the number one beach time and time again. When it's a hot day and you've got these beautiful high rises in the background, I tell you now, people are going to be going, my God, where are we? And further down you got beautiful seafood beaches where it's like white sands. It feels like you're up in up near.
Did another
Hamilton
video
Hill.
today driving down that little beautiful part. I was going to put point of view winter start in Frankston and drive down Oliver's Hill.
Yeah, wow.
Number 4.4 of those effects, of the market effects, the rental market pressure. Guys, the CBA has come out and forecasted price growth dropping between 5 to 3% by December 2026. So less investor demand for established stock.
Yep.
Equals less rental supply over time, which equals upward pressure on rents in a market that's already tight.
Well, we spoke about that at the start when Natalie Barr was talking about it and saying, and look, there are rules around it. I don't know why people can just chuck their rents up. They just, like there was rules around it, but I think now they're just like, well, those rules we're changing rules here and there. So I think when you start doing that, it's a bit of a dangerous time.
Well, when they're not, like you said, if you're pretty locked in on rules and regulations with money, then why can the RBA have such autonomy and change interest rates like that? I know that banks don't pass it straight on, but you got to look, right?
Banks are passing it before they even get done.
That's what I'm trying to say. So this is what we do have, they're making it incredibly hard to invest. And it's pretty clear.
But
anyway. 3 conversations we would recommend that you have. This has not been financial advice. We hope that there's been some form of value you can have taken away from it. I do think, like we said, I think it's going to put if we summarize it, market, there's great opportunities right now.
Absolutely.
So if you're buying and selling in the same market.
If you're upsizing, you want investments, there's some absolute cracking buying at the moment. You can get in there where 6 months ago you may have had 4, 5, 6 other people competing. Now you can walk in and just go, hey, here's an offer, and you just never know what might happen.
Yeah, the next 13 months we'll definitely see a lot of investor market hold back. So you'll see a lot of investors go, you know what, I was going to buy that property. I might just wait, let the dust settle, put my money into share market or even business for that matter. and just park that idea. You'll see more, like we said, properties under the $1 million coming online. And I think after that, I think prices will go up. I think if you're looking to rent, jump into something sooner rather than later, and then, fix yourself, fix a rate for the next 12 months as long as you can, and then go from there. But I do think the market will kick. I think after everyone restructures, figures it out, go and have a chat to your accountant. That'd be the first step.
Financial advisor, have a chat.
Yep, financial advisor, mortgage broker.
And then if you need an agent to talk,
Sorry, I was making a list of people I would suggest.
Sorry.
An accountant, financial advisor, and mortgage broker. That'd be, and if you're direct, talk to your bank. However, I would be probably suggesting talk to a mortgage broker because they've got your best interest more than I would recommend a bank. But
sure,
that's just my opinion. Also, the next person, you always talk to a local real estate agent. Get a feel. Go to open homes, as Dad said. It's actually really worth getting out and about, seeing what the market's doing. Watch auctions live. See what's happening in your local suburb. Don't just go off what the general consensus is across the board on the RERV or the realestate.com.au clearance rate. Aside from that, guys, I think that wraps everything up. If you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments, DM or call Dad or myself. We'd love to help. And is there anything else you wanted to say?
No,
did you have anything? You clipped me on my haircut this morning.
I've been
butchered.
It's quite
short. Bloody short, isn't it?
It's short. He's gone. Basically, I thought you were going in number one, but that's
what he's done. Number two.
He's done zero.
What?
But no, all good. I think you might need to. You didn't go.
Scrappy Coco, Dean from Hair Moves has done me a.
He's done.
You know what was funny?
But you didn't go. He, as you know, we go every week. You didn't go last week, so he's probably gone. I'm going to do a 2 for 1. Usually at the fade is.
Well, he probably. I did say sorry for not turning up. I also missed my appointment, so I can understand why he's butchered me. But I also, in the same light, said. I made a joke and I said, have you ever just when he started cutting the fade, he starts from where it is and just starts cutting and didn't make it look good. It looked really shabby. And then I said, have you ever just done a video where you go, when the hairdresser gives you a bad haircut and walks out and you haven't even finished the haircut? And he goes, nah, well, clearly he decided to actually implemented that today. He's actually decided the back of my head's not really finished.
You might have to go back and see him.
It'll be the next Friday. It'll be right.
You'll be right.
Do you want to talk emerge property of the week? 23 Stanley Street in beautiful Somerville. 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom. You've probably got about 8 cars to park. You've also got 814 square meters. You are right across from a reserve, and you have a beautiful renovated home, high-pitched roofs, and you've got a stunning pool. And there's just a lot. Barley Hut, bar. There's a lot going for that one. That one will be coming to the market. We'll be quoting 1.25 to 1.35. Expect that to be online this Saturday.
We've got 35A Baden Powell Drive going to auction tomorrow. Frankston South. Lovely, good sized block.
A 697 square meter block, guys.
Huge block.
Where are you picking that up?
Yeah, potential to subdivide. Well under $1 million. It's value for money. And look, we'll see how we go. Hopefully, we'll give you a bit of an update next week.
30 Violet Street, first grand opening.
Grand opening tomorrow.
These homes on
auction
Violet Street.
20th of June.
Yeah, these homes. I love how we're both trying to sell it at the same time. We can't let each other talk. It's hilarious. That one's a cracker. When do homes come up in Violet Street that are under $1 million nowadays? The top of the guide's $1,050,000, but
yeah. Look, put it this way, there's not much, and the great thing with this property is it's beachside, Car Street. That's like I say to people, anything beachside, Car Street, you can't go wrong. Yeah,
we potentially might have a few more little units coming on, just under the 600,000 mark there. So
one around $1 million. Got a couple other properties coming to market very soon too. So we've got lots in the pipeline. Got 2 auctions scheduled for next week, and we've got more auctions scheduled in June and also in July, which is great.
We'll be doing an auction bonanza as well, guys. So we have done that in the past, and they work really well. We always talk about creating competition, and we've found when we have properties that are very similar priced and we're doing auctions around the same times, you can bounce buyers in between. So it's making sure that we get the right amount of buyers to your home. If you have any interest and you're thinking, you know what, maybe I will sell, you want to see what the most competitive route always an auction. We always do those little things where we will figure out before we hit the market, what sort of price it is worth. We always run a bit of I call it the buyer intelligence phase, where we figure out what, a couple of buyers will spend on it, and then we go to market to make sure we're quoting the right guide, we're going to get the right interest. And if we're absolutely wrong, at least we'll know before we hit the go button. But guys, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks very much.
Please like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you.